place setting that I got years ago, and I painted it yesterday. I think this one's cuter because it's got the holly leaves at the bottom, but I do like the gold around this. So I painted it yesterday with these Etchr Lab. These are great. 100% cotton, cold press postcards that are just adorable. You can mail to people that I have been practicing on. And they're an awful lot of fun for little small montages. So yesterday I actually did this video, and my hand was completely in the way. So we're gonna do it again. And it's very simple. Anybody can do this. This is a little stocking. First you draw a little, kind of like an L shape. That one's not big enough. Let's see. Make it a little fatter, and a little bit of white topping here. And then I'm just gonna suggest, we're gonna have little greenery coming out of here and a little pine cone. I'm gonna leave it just like that. I have two brushes that I'm using today, the Etchr number 8 and the Princeton number 2 Velvet Touch. And what we're gonna do is you're gonna mix up a bright red and a darker red. And my darker red, I used this. You know, I think I actually just like that the way it is. All right, and we start with a nice watery base on the stocking. And I want it dries so much lighter, so you want to make it a nice bright red. I was surprised at how many values, how many shades this dried lighter than I wanted. So, and these are, I didn't tell you, these are my Sennelier paints. I really like these. I got them for an online class that I did years ago, and they've lasted quite a long time. So see, that's nice and bright. I've got lots of color in there. Rinse your brush out and pick up the darker red. There it is. And I'm just gonna touch underneath where the stuffing is, the top white floofy part, because there would be kind of a shadow there. And then we're gonna do just a little crease here and a few little creases here. And then I like to go along the bottom, give it some color there, and maybe a little crease or two here. There we go. That gives it a nice little bit of variety. Now we're gonna leave this part right now. I'm gonna go in with a little bit of very, very pale purple to give it a little shape later. But right now, this is so wet, I kind of wanna let that dry a little bit. So we're gonna go in, I'm gonna mix a bright green for the kind of holly leaves. And I know I'm gonna get my sweater in this. I'm just gonna do some loose, I want some points though. My points aren't coming out. I want some points so they look a little bit pointy like holly leaves. That's not pointy. Let's do some just little points coming out of here. And I'm gonna do a pine cone in here. Let's see. So you just kind of smatter in. You don't want to do detailed holly leaves. That'll be just fine. I'm going to leave that. Maybe bring it down just a touch here. There. And then we're going to come in. We're going to use our tiny brush, number 2 Princeton Round Velvet Touch. And this is kind of a mahogany I like this reddish brown to start with, and then you mix a darker brown to come back in. The pine cone on here is so tiny, you don't really have to do this. I just like to add a little bit of dimension. So the pine cone starts with just a little topper and then 2 little lines below it. And then it's a bunch of C strokes with a tiny bit of space. The important part on the pine cone are the little white space areas. See how there's little white spots left in there. That's going to give that the nice little shape of a pine cone. And come back in with your dark, and I like to just come in and make the bottom darker and just touch. I hope my hand's not in the way again. I did that last video. I have to remember to keep my hand to the left. And you're just gonna touch along the bottom, give it a little bit of darker color there at the bottom. So good, we've got our little stocking. We've got the nice greenery there, which I think makes a big difference in this cute little card. And then we're gonna go in, we've got the light green of the holly, or the holly? Yeah. So we're gonna blue this up a little with a bluer green, kind of a Philadelphia Eagles green. Not the Kelly green that they wear, but now this is dangerous. I wonder, no, I'm gonna leave it and work around it. Try not to get my arm in it. Now we take, and I don't want it completely dripping off of there. We are going to, I'm gonna pat this up like this because I know I'm gonna get myself. All right, now we take a very thin brush and just lightly come up like this. And you want very thin little pine needles. So use a very light touch, and you go, and I usually end up making it, I go too high at the top and then I come up, bring the tip a little further up. There we go. You can bring it all the way down here. And then I'm gonna go in with a little yellow. We want the next one, you don't want them to be the exact same colors. You want a little bit of variety. So we're gonna go straight up. And this is gonna be a tall one. And you know, some pine trees have the longer, thicker needles, and some are very tiny and thin. So you can vary your needle color and length. Now on this, I'm gonna come in and go with the dark right along, maybe even a little darker, right along the middle. And that will kind of bleed out a little bit. There we go. And I'm even gonna add a little blue to the next one, which actually is just like using that one. I don't know why I did that, but I'm also going to add a little bit of red to kind of knock back. Red is the complementary opposite end of the color wheel for green, so it'll take the zing out of that green for you. We're gonna go up here, and then, and take your time when you're doing these little needles, because when I get sloppy, I end up crossing over the middle of that and it just looks terrible. So now we're gonna come in with this same dark color, do one over here. Let's let's see. We're gonna add some nice little berries to this as well. There we go. I'm gonna put even a few coming up out of here. All right, and let's see, let's do one more teeny tiny one, maybe even kind of touch your brush against your paper towel to lighten it. We'll do a real light one back here so that it even maybe looks like it's behind all of the other. There we go. Now let's come in with some real pretty, put a lot of paint on the brush, a lot of pigment, not a lot of water necessarily, so that they're nice and bright. And with a small brush like this, you can just dot them, and they will run into the green if the green's not dry enough. So I'm kind of trying to work around in areas where, not where I just put the paint down. There we go. We'll put one up here, a couple here, and a couple up here. Maybe we'll even do more than that up here. Like a cluster of them, and a couple. Whoa, that's way too much water. That's gonna go everywhere. Maybe we'll do 1, 2, one tucked in there. There we go. Now you can see the red's kind of running in right here. You can either, that was super watery when I laid this down. You can tap it out with your brush to kind of pull some of that out of there if you want. I'll just give it a little bit of shape there. All right, and you know, I think since that's still nice and wet, I'm gonna drop a little bit of my dark green along the bottom here. More pigment, less water, just to kind of darken the bottom of that, where there's really less light reaching there because it's tucked in here at the bottom, or underneath all this other foliage. There we go. Oh, I'm liking that. Okay, now we are going to add just the little sides, I think, and this is where I've ruined this in the past. The past couple times I did it is I touched the part that was still wet. This is very wet, this is very wet. So you want to be very careful and not touch that. I'm gonna go around here. And you want mostly water, very little pigment. This is gonna dry really light. And I'm not gonna touch the boot either, the sock, because that pigment will go rushing in there because it's still wet. It is not dry. And let's see, I'm gonna add just little kind of, now see how the red is running in there because I touched it just barely. Watercolor is, I love watercolor, but I mean, that is, your tool is the water, and it will send this pigment everywhere, which is part of its beauty, but I don't really want red along the bottom of my stocking, along the bottom of my cotton. Be very careful here. All right, good. That didn't touch it. And you can even, if you have a very steady hand, I wonder if I could probably pull that up. Let me see. Pull that up. what I could do is I could bring this red up a little higher to meet that. There we go. And then that's better. All right, so that's my cute little stocking. What I'm going to do, I kind of lost my little crinkle, what do you call that? Little wrinkle, little crease that was right there. You can come back in and put more creases if you want. It's dry enough to do that. Have them come to the end there. There we go. But I like that little, there we go. And you can even come along the bottom if you want, give it a little more definition. Now what I did yesterday that I really enjoyed is I should have taken a ruler. Let's use a clear ruler and this gold, what is this? A Signa gold uniball. We're gonna move this, and now you kind of want a steady hand. I used this box yesterday, which was very not smart. And don't put this on your wet part there, and I'm left-handed, so let's do this. If you're right-handed, you'll probably do this differently. Line this up where I can see right through this how much that this is even. When you get these clear rulers, these are great because you won't mess up. Now watch me mess it up. You won't mess up your line as badly as you would without being able to see that. See, I can see where that's lined up perfectly right there. Now I should hold it so it doesn't move, but I'm gonna do this, and feel free to move this around so that your hand, there we go. And one more. I just like the way this gives it a nice little finished edge. Let's see, there we go, boop. And that is straight. Oh, nice, I love that. I love the way that gives a nice gold finish. Now I am going to write Merry Christmas. And if you're smart, you do it in pencil first so that you know that it's where you want it. But I am not going to do that. And so you know you go along a straight line. I am not that fussy. You could also get a stamp if you don't like your penmanship. There we go, Merry Christmas. Oh, also, I like to add little gold, some little gold dots here. They add a nice little touch. And you could do one here. You could spatter if you want, but I kind of like the simplicity of this little card. So that's it. That is a cute little Merry Christmas stocking. It kind of looks like my little stocking here. But I hope you liked it. Give it a thumbs up and a like if you liked it. And please join me for more Christmas videos coming up later in the week. There we go. Merry Christmas. Whoop, the light. There we go. There we go. No glare there. Bye-bye.